Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. Got a bit of competition from Mr. Crow this morning. It's the 26th of August 2025 and the time is 9:44 a.m. So I want to greet all of you, my fellow earthlings, my sentient beings all sharing sacred space on Mother Gaia, conquistadores of corazon, conquerors of the heart, soul dreamers, soul stitchers, grandmother spider, sending her golden threads out to weave her tapestry of fate. So it's a beautiful morning, but it keeps clouding over, and I've only just put the birdie boys outside, and I'm worried that we might get rain showers, but it clouds over and then it brightens up and then it clouds over and then it brightens up, a bit like my mood. So I had a very bad upsetting day yesterday with grief over my old friend John Hickman, and then I spiralled into other extraneous griefs that I'm still trying to process and put to bed permanently, leave them behind me where they belong, eating my shorts. But anyway, it was a bit bloody intense. But anyway, I woke up this morning and I wrote some poignant, potent writing, and I thought, you know what, Tanya Aarons, there's a reason no man can love you or handle you. You're not made for mere mortals. It's a tragedy in 3 acts: maiden, matron, crone. I was hoping in my crone years that the gods would be kind and let me have my true love, but it's not looking promising. Well, we've got Kookaburra up on the neighbour's TV area, which is antenna, which is interesting, and we've got crow fluttering about. I've just given them 2 crows some chicken scraps, so they'll enjoy that. That's why they're so raucous and happy. And all things told and all things unspoken and untold, it's a beautiful day here at Sacred Space, Titania's Realm in Holland Park, Brisbane. So let us continue. I promised that I would read J.R.R. Tolkien, The Hobbit. I'm a bit worried because it's a very old copy. I've had this book since I was 13 years old. So I'm not even sure if all the pages are there, if some have been fallen out. Oh, look at this. Oh, for shame. Well, she must have given it to me because I don't steal books. It once belonged to my childhood friend, Lynn Robertson. So was it Lord of the Rings that my father bought for me when I was 13? Yes, we were on holiday. We went up to the Bay of Islands and I saw them in a bookstore and I begged my father to buy me it. He did, grudgingly, but he did buy it. So anyway, I don't know. I've had this book an awfully long time if Lynn Robertson gave it to me. And there you go, Lynn Robertson, if you ever watch my videos. I've cherished everything you ever gave me, and I've cherished your heart and I've cherished your soul, and I've loved you since I first met you when I was 4 years old and you were 8, and your mother held you by your hand, and my mad bastard of a mother geezer was pushing me in one of those little prams still. I don't know what I was doing still in a pram at 4. It's a bit odd. You know, one of those buggies. Anyway, I saw that you were barefooted, and so I tugged on my socks and shoes to pull my socks and shoes off because I wanted to be barefoot like you. And I got a, slap for being so cheeky and naughty and wanting my freedom. And my mother had this thing about bare feet. She hated my feet being bare. So to this day, as a rebellion, bare feet, because nobody stops me from grounding my spirit here down in 3D reality on planet Earth. And I'm an old woman now, but even as a young adult, as soon as I could, barefooted I was. Very grounded, believe it or not. My psychiatrist tells me that he grounds me too, which he does. I needed epic grounding yesterday. Was starting to lose it, but in the evening I thought, oh, this is not going to be good, is it, if I carry on like a pork chop like this? So I took a Valium, and I feel a little bit calmer today because it's got a long half-life. It's not good when I have to quell my nervous system with Valium, but old griefs and recent griefs just percolated, and it was not pretty, people of Earth. Other people seem to be able to grieve without needing to quell their nervous system, but wow, I've had a lot of evil done to me in my lifetime, so my brain's not wired like other people's. I mustn't compare myself to other people because I'm not like other people. Just had this, I'm just looking into but I'm looking at my neighbours' windows, and they keep their windows shut all the time because I guess they're at work, which is fair enough. But it looks, just got a kind of a shock because it looks like it's empty and that they've moved out, and that's not the case because I saw my neighbour Tash yesterday and she waved at me happily. It's odd. It must be just a trick of the light that I can't see, I mean, I'm not staring into their house or looking at their possessions, but I just had this feeling that it was emptied out. But I know they're planning to knock it down and build a new house, so maybe that's what I'm intuiting, that they're about to get it ready for knocking down, which I guess they would empty it out. They'd have to put their furniture into storage and just keep the bare minimum and then move out while they're renovating. I must ask her because that was a powerful intuition. I kind of, did you see me? I kind of did a double take and got a bit of a shock. So no, I don't think they're moving away. Anyway, let us begin. Except temporarily while the house is being worked on. Let us begin this wonderful story titled The Hobbit, or There and Back Again. Here's his autograph or signature. Here's a map of, where is it? Middle Earth, called his land's Middle Earth. Far to the north are the grey mountains and the withered hearth whence came the great worms, which are dragons, people of earth. Dragons. Thrall's map. And then it's written all in runes, runic language. He really was an incredible genius, wasn't he? I love his writings and his works. Here was Gurion, Lord and Dale. Here of old was Thrym, king, under the mountain. East lie the iron hills, where is Day, D-A-I. I think there's a letter cut off by the binding. The lonely mountain. I live close to a mountain, Mount Gravatt. When you drive up there, it's got a beautiful outlook, looks all over across Brisbane City. Had a young man staying with me, a Frenchman, when I briefly dabbled in couch surfing, and I took him up there to look at the view, and he really loved it. But he was only here for one night, I think it was, and I just found it all a bit stress-inducing, having strangers in my house, so I didn't do it again. Not that he was a problem, he was a lovely kid, really quite lovely, but you know, went off to do his thing, as you do, you know. But I did take him there to see the view, because I thought as a tourist from France he'd enjoy that, which he did indeed. In Escaroth upon the long lake dwell men, and if there's any real men amongst them. Oh, Mama's starving for a real man with real heart and soul, and eyes that look only at hers, and swells with pride and happiness to be my partner. Oh, it's sad. Meanwhile, we'll read The Hobbit. Here flows the forest river, Elven King. You know, I just saw now on Instagram, I missed seeing it yesterday, or I definitely would have gone. In the evening, I had this urge to go. On Mondays at the Brooklyn Standard, they have a wonderful Mexican band playing mariachi music, and they're called the Mad Mariachis. And they have a two-lady violinist. I think they take turns between them, you know. And I saw the post only this morning, Liz Young. She's a wonderful violinist. I found her through Instagram, and then I thought, I've recognised you from playing for the Mad Mariachi. I haven't been there on a Monday night, but I had danced for them one time when they were playing on a Friday evening before either Alter Egos or Ramjet came on. So, and I really loved it, you know. And so last night I thought, oh, it's Monday, maybe I'll go. But my nervous system was spiralling everywhere, and I thought, oh, it's not good for me to go out when I'm in that state. I took a Valium and settled myself back down instead. But when I saw that Liz was playing last night, I thought, damn it, I wish I'd followed my intuition and gone out and just listened to the wonderful Mexican music, which is so life-affirming and joyous and full of corazon. And you know what? I'm going to have to make myself go out on a Monday night too and listen to that lovely, vibrant, joyous, arriba, andale, life-affirming, exciting music, because I need soul nourishing right now. I need someone with their talents and their joy and their wonderful sensuality to blow life to me. Not on anything sexual or weird, people of earth, but just have a couple of nice drinks and dance to wonderful Mexican music. It will do me the power of good. So that's what I'm planning on doing. Now the weather's warming up, I'll feel like going out more. I normally go out just on a Friday night, but you know, what am I doing here? Little hobbit in my little sacred space, slowly mouldering away in grief for a man who had no real love for me. That's insane, people of Earth. Mama T does not do insanity, which is weird since I've been in therapy for 30 years. But no. We don't do wasting time and heart and soul on stupidity, people of Earth. By the gods, I need to put on my corset and pull up my bootstraps and put a flower in my hair and ride this motherfucker of a life to its ultimate destination, wherever that's destined to end up. I'm not out looking for a man, by the way. Just want music and joy and delight and happiness. And I deserve that. I told the birdies this morning, if it rains I'm going to be very disappointed, because we deserve a lovely day today. But here we have it, a bit of a preface put in by the Unwin Books publisher. The Hobbit. Seldom has a story been so widely praised as The Hobbit by parents, teachers, reviewers, and especially by children themselves. Within a few years, its hero, Bilbo Baggins, has taken his place among the ranks of the immortals. Alice, Pooh, Toad. As with all such classics, enjoyment burgeons at each successive reading, and grown-ups as much as children feel the potency of its spell. My tea's gone cold. Oh. It is a tale of high adventure undertaken by a company of dwarves in search of dragon-guarded gold. Oh, Mama T likes gold, and she can afford it, babies. Maybe I'm part dragon myself. I'm a wood snake in Chinese astrology, so I'm only halfway there. You gotta laugh. Everything by halves. Inchworm, inchworm. Working through the marigolds. Anyway, you gotta laugh. Life's meant to be a bit light-hearted as well. Not all grief and distress and treachery and ugliness. It's meant to be enjoyed. Frangipani tree up above me concurs. Although I must say, she doesn't really talk to me like the golden rain tree when I lie under her and I just quietly, rest and doze. We enter into some kind of telepathy or communion, and I often see little visions of things. It's like, I know that sounds mad to the uninitiated, but that tree talks to me. Maybe if I was patient and I listened to this one, it would talk to me too. But not today. I'm reading stories to the people of Earth Tree. We have to be cognizant that we're on a mission today, a new mission. Reading The Hobbit. A reluctant partner on this perilous quest is Bilbo Baggins, a comfort-loving, unambitious hobbit who surprises even himself by his resourcefulness and skill as a burglar. Just a moment, I'm going to get a cigar and a cold drink because my tea's cold. and I need a drink, and I'll be back. I know, Mama T interrupt us again, but I'll be back and we will continue. You know, we get there eventually. I always finish my missions. Those crows leave you any chicken, Mr. Kookaburra? Isn't he a good boy, little Kermie? Right, I'm back. Just gonna light my little wee Willem cigar in honour of the voodoo god Papa Legba and a few old friends who I loved well. I'll just pour us some water. I don't smoke very often because of my lungs, and I don't want to be addicted to smoking like my vile sister who smoked 2 packets a day. And, but anyway, used to breathe smoke into my lungs when I was sick and then slap me for coughing. Oh, she was a sadistic cow. But anyway, we won't think about that. Happy thoughts. Am I right? You've got to work at it some days. Oh, that's good. It's very satisfying. If you're going to smoke, fucking commit to something delicious and worthwhile. Right. Encounters with giant spiders in the labyrinths of Mirkwood and the evil goblins that live among the roots of the misty mountains. The palpitating delicacy of Bilbo's conversations with the dragon, Smaug, and the grand climax in the battle. The only trouble is it goes out. In the Battle of 5 Armies are supremely exciting incidents. But there are homelier moments too. I mustn't get that on my beautiful dress. Good fellowship and welcome meals along the road. Laughter and song and all the freshness of an early world, which I've decided We are going to recreate and co-create. Here comes the bloody rain, birds. Well, if the gods are kind, it'll blow away. I checked the weather report this morning. It said mostly sunny, no sign of rain. They can't even get that right. Trust the science, morons. Anyway, they're happy in the garden. I'll keep them out there unless it really pelts down. And we'll make the most of whatever comes to us today. Magic and mischief and joy and delight, people of Earth. To you, Papa Legba, guardian of the underworld, protect and nurture the souls that come to you in recent days and love them, love them, love them. And love us broken and desolate ones too. I don't know why, that's a very bad cigar. It keeps going out. Annoying. Annoying. Obviously it wasn't rolled properly. Or I'm an idiot. More likely I'm an idiot. Stop laughing, all you cigar smokers. If it was weed, I'd be hoovering the last crumb of it up, but it's just tobacco. What do you think of that, little Bo? He says, don't send smoke my way, Mama. I'm not. It's a nice breeze that's blowing away from you. Right. Some things are just offerings to the gods, you understand. They make sense only to me, a non-smoker. Ironic. Let's just finish that because I'm sick of relighting it and trying to read stories to you at the same time. Multitask, multitask. Walk and talk, walk and talk. Smoke and drink water, walk and talk, read and sing and live in light, full of delight, arise and shine in your own crazy queendom. Here's Cookie back. Hello, Kookaburra. What are you doing? He's looking at me like to say, what are you doing? You a beautiful birdie boy? Yes. Kermie's a beautiful birdie boy. Oh, you got another friend there. Do you want to see it? Sometimes it's worthwhile me not always being strictly adhering to reading stories. Get to see the birds in the garden. That one looks like it's been through hell. It's a bit scruffy and I hope you got some chicken, my boys. I hope you did. I think the crows took most of it. That's why they're hanging around staring me down, isn't it? They're like, Mama T, where's ours? You snooze, you lose, my boys. You got to get in when the tucker's on offer. All right, here we go. Let's continue. The Hobbit is in itself a complete and marvellous tale which may be read to the very young or given to children of any age to read for themselves. But it is also a prelude to the Lord of the Rings. Might have to continue with reading that after this. It's going to be a long journey, that one. Ooh. A long, long journey. Better yet, you can borrow the books from a library or buy your own copy and read it yourself. Don't need me to read stories to you. There's 3 cookies now. All the kookaburras are here, Bo. All of them. You're all right, little Bo. They can't hurt you. You're in your cage. Mama won't let them hurt you anyway. It's also a prelude to the Lord of the Rings, in which the true significance of Bilbo's success in riddles and the nature of Gollum's precious is revealed. The books are starting to tear apart, this copy. Well, it's very, very old. It's got to be over 50 years old. Lynn gave it to me when I was around 13. 47 years old. By the gods. Might shut myself a new copy. The books, and first of all, The Hobbit, speak of the nobility and delight in life, people of Earth, and reaffirm our secret hopes that, whatever the odds, right will be victorious over might. Right, let us begin the story. This is a story of long ago. At that time, the languages and letters were quite different from ours of today. English is used to represent the languages, but 2 points may be noted. 1. In English, the only correct plural of dwarf is dwarfs, and the adjective is dwarfish. In this story, dwarves and dwarvish are used. The reason for this is given in The Lord of the Rings 3, page 415. But only when speaking of the ancient people to whom Thorin Oakenshield and his companions belonged. 2. Orc is not an English word. It occurs in 1 or 2 places that is usually translated goblin or hobgoblin for the larger kinds. Orc is the hobbits' form of the name given at that time to these creatures, and it is not connected at all with our orc, O-R-C, or O-R-K, orc, applied to sea animals of dolphin kind. Well, orcas aren't actually dolphins, J.R.R. Tolkien. As much as I love you, I beg to differ. They're killer whales. But anyway, I guess betwixt and between's close enough. We won't fight about that, will we? Maestro of literature. Anyway, perhaps also I could be wrong. Sometimes I'm wrong, people of Earth. I have to make allowances that I can on occasion be wrong, especially when it comes to mathematics or affairs of the heart. So wrong, so bloody wrong, so devastatingly wrong. But when I get it right, sunshine and rainbows and psychedelic dreamers evanescence and flowers in my hair and passion and romance and on very rare occasions, when the vibe is right, you know what I'm going to say, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to leave you hanging like Victoria Holt. Runes were old letters originally used for cutting or scratching on wood, stone or metal, and so were thin and angular. At the time of this tale, only the dwarves made regular use of them, especially for private or secret records. Their runes are in this book represented by English runes, which are known now to few people. Hello, Kookaburra. Look at him. He's come to see us. Where is he? Right there. Can you see him? I've got to get it right. Here he is. Hello, beautiful boy. We're reading The Hobbit to the people of Earth. Yes, he's saying, I want some more chicken. Look, I gave out a lot of chicken and the crows took it all. I'm sorry. I'm a bit distraught because I meant it for you birds to have as well. Look at him. Look at him looking at my boys. Yes, we're watching you, watching my boys who are also watching you. The world of surveillance. Everybody's watching somebody. Need to get a life, people of Earth. By the gods. Why are you watching me actually? Suppose it's wonderful watching someone crash and burn with such monotonous regularity. Some of you get a frisson from that. Wow. Be very concerned when I get back up. I'm starting to get back up. My asthma's not as bad today, have you noticed? Not coughing up a lung. This is progress. Right. Oh yeah, I read that. Their runes are known now to few people. If the runes on Thrall's map are compared with the transcriptions into modern letters on pages 19 and 49, the alphabet adapted to modern English can be discovered in the above runic title, also read. Because I'm good at pattern recognition, I already know that says The Hobbit by, but this is where I get lost. But we know who it's by. Tolkien. Tolkien. The greatest professor of English mythology that there probably ever existed. But I'm a little bit biased. Just say. You know, he had a beautiful love story with his wife. A true love story. Quite wonderful. Some people are blessed when it comes to choosing wonderful partners. Having them choose them. It's a choice. Crisscross. Kismet. Kiss-met. Well met. Only the gods can get that right sometimes. I'll trust in the gods since I can't trust in my own wisdom or judgment. And I really thought the last love interest, even though he was unavailable, and I was struggling with that too, trying to remain moral and integral. But I really thought he loved me. Isn't that tragic? Well, never mind. It's a prelude to a kiss, a practice run for when the real love enters my life. Perhaps in the next dimension, if not in this one. Meanwhile, Monday nights, mariachi band, be ready. The Tanya is coming. Arriba, underlay. Silly old chook. But I'm not there to flirt and hunt down men. I'm really not. It's not my style. I haven't done that in years. Just dance and be joyful. Dance and be joyful. Right. On the map, all the normal runes are found except for, I don't know how to read that, for X. I and U are used for J and V. There was no rune for Q, use CW, nor for Z. The dwarf rune may be used if required. It will be found, however, that some single runes stand for two modern letters, TH and GEE. Other runes of the same kind, EA and ST, were also sometimes used. EA and ST. I must make a proper study of how to write runes sometime. I made 2 runes as a gift for my friend and alter egos, Paulie, for his empowerment and for his healing specifically. So anyway, that's all turned ugly through no fault of my own really, except for falling in love with someone who was soulless and empty. So there is that. But anyway, I still wish him joy and bliss with those healing runes, and that they assist him in some powerful, magical way. It's not his fault. It's not any of their fault. It's between my former situationship friend and I. It's not fair to drag everyone into that nightmare, but they're all, they're all friends, so they're put in a precarious position. But anyway, I know the ones that genuinely appreciated my dancing for them for many years and my healing them still tolerate me, rather whimsically I might add. Right, here we go. The wind has blown the pages across and now I don't know where I'm at. Here we are. The secret door was marked D. From the side a hand pointed to this, and under it was written in a whole sentence in runes, which I will show you, but I can't read. You're shredding paper, little man. The last the 2 runes are the initials of Thrall and Thrain, which as you can see look like 2 P's but actually represent T's. Interesting, isn't it? It's all very clever and interesting. I like my mind to be stimulated by magic and wonder and delight and interesting things. It's the only thing to keep living for, is to have your mind expanded and stimulated and nourished. Notice I've got sores on my nose again. That's from my CPAP mask. Oh well. I had a better night last night. What was my result? 0.6, which is not too shabby. The last two, oh yeah, I read that. The moon runes read by Elrond were, oh my goodness, quite a lot there. Entire paragraph. On the map, the compass points are marked in runes, with east at the top, as usual in dwarf maps, and so read clockwise: east, south, west, north. Let's go back to the map. East, west, south, north. Interesting. Interesting. Come on, sing it, boy. Nah. He started to, and then I gave up. Right. Chapter 1. An unexpected party. Yes, Kookaburra? In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green, with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. The door opened onto a tube-shaped hall like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel without smoke, with panelled walls and floors, tiled and carpeted, provided with polished chairs and lots of pegs for hats and coats. The Hobbit was fond of visitors. The tunnel wound on and on, going fairly but not quite straight into the side of the hill. The hill, as all the people for many miles round called it, and many little round doors opened out of it, first on one side and then on another. No going upstairs for the Hobbit. Bedrooms, bathrooms, cellars, pantries, lots of these. Wardrobes. He had whole rooms devoted to clothes. A bit like my spare bedroom, isn't it? Kitchens, dining rooms, all were on the same floor, and indeed on the same passage. The best rooms were all on the left-hand side going in, for these were the only ones to have windows, deep-set round windows, looking over his garden and meadows beyond, sloping down to the river. This hobbit was a very well-to-do hobbit, and his name was Baggins. The Bagginses had lived in the neighbourhood of the hill for time out of mind, and people considered them very respectable, not only because most of them were rich, but also because they never had any adventures or did anything unexpected. You could tell what a Baggins would say on any question without the bother of asking him. This is a story of how a Baggins had an adventure and found himself doing and saying things altogether unexpected. He may have lost the neighbour's respect, but he gained, well, you will see whether he gained anything in the end. The mother of our particular hobbit. What is a hobbit? I suppose hobbits need some description nowadays, since they have become rare and shy of the big people, as they call us. They are, or were, a little people, about half our height and smaller than the bearded dwarves. Hobbits have no beards. There is little or no magic about them, except the ordinary, everyday sort, which helps them to disappear quietly and quickly when large, stupid folk like you and me come blundering along, making a noise like elephants, which they can hear a mile off. They are inclined to be fat in the stomach. They dress in bright colours, chiefly green and yellow. Wear no shoes because their feet grow natural leathery soles and thick warm brown hair like the stuff on their heads, which is curly. Have long, clever brown fingers, good-natured faces, and laugh deep, fruity laughs, especially after dinner, which they have twice a day when they can get it. Now you know enough to go on with. As I was saying, the mother of this hobbit, of Bilbo Baggins, that is, was the famous Belladonna Took, one of the 3 remarkable daughters of the old Took, head of the hobbits who lived across the water, the small river that ran at the foot of the hill. It was often said in other families that long ago one of the Took ancestors must have taken a fairy wife. That is, of course, absurd, but certainly there was still something not entirely hobbit-like about them, and once in a while members of the Took clan would go and have adventures. they discreetly disappeared, and the family hushed it up. But the fact remained that the Tooks were not as respectable as the Bagginses, although they were undoubtedly richer. Not that Belladonna Took ever had any adventures after she became Mrs. Bungo Baggins. Bungo, that was Bilbo's father, built the most luxurious hobbit hole for her, and partly with her money, that was to be found either under the hill or over the hill or across the water. And there they remained to the end of their days. Still, it is probable that Bilbo, her only son, although he looked and behaved exactly like a second edition of his solid and comfortable father, got something a bit queer in his make-up from the Took side, something that only waited for a chance to come out. The chance never arrived until Bilbo Baggins was grown up, being about 50 years or so. This little hobbit could do with a wonderful adventure too. Money, money, money. That's all I need is enough money for petrol in the car. Well, you have to laugh. And living in the beautiful hobbit hole built by his father, which I have just described for you, until he had in fact apparently settled down immovably. By some curious chance one morning long ago, in the quiet of the world, not very quiet with the crows going off half-cocked, but that's what crows do. When there was less noise and more green, and the hobbits were still numerous and prosperous, and Bilbo Baggins was standing at his door after breakfast, smoking an enormous long wooden pipe that reached nearly down to his woolly toes, neatly brushed. Gandalf came by. Gandalf! If you had heard only a quarter of what I have heard about him, and I have only heard very little of all there is to hear, you would be prepared for any sort of remarkable tale. Maybe Gandalf's my future partner. I could do with a wonderful, talented wizard who knows his stuff, isn't a fake or a fop, certainly not a weakling or lackluster entity. By the gods! That's why I have to live in Titania's realm with the fairy folk, because they get it. They get it, don't you, my beloved ones? Over there in your designated corner of the garden. But you can't make fairies stay in their little corner. They're everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. You only have to believe and choose to see them. Doesn't hurt to make offerings to them on occasion too. Hope you enjoyed the cigar from this morning, my beauties. Well, you're not mine, I'm using mine in the classical general sense. No one belongs to the Fae. Don't partake of their food and drink if you enter their realm, just saying. They'll enslave you in not very nice ways. So I don't mean it that way. I'm just being affectionate, you understand. Affectionate. I'm in an affectionate mood because life is beautiful. The sun is shining and we're reading The Hobbit. Tales and adventures sprouted up all over the place wherever he went in the most extraordinary fashion. He had not been down that way under the hill for ages and ages. Not since his friend the old Took died, in fact, and the hobbits had almost forgotten what he looked like. He had been away over the hill and across the water on business of his own, since they were all small hobbit boys and hobbit girls. All that the unsuspecting Bilbo saw that morning well, that's odd. On the breeze I got a waft of cigar smoke, but I finished the cigar ages ago. That's a sign. Probably wafted off me, but it's a sign that that little offering was received and appreciated. Magic happens, people of Earth. Only if you believe in magic. All that the unsuspecting Bilbo saw that morning was an old man with a staff. He had a tall, pointed blue hat, a long grey cloak, a silver scarf over which his long white beard hung down below his waist, and immense black boots. Which tells us that although he wasn't actually a hobbit, he must have been tall and had quite large feet. It doesn't actually say that he's tall though. It just says that he had a tall pointed blue hat. Let's stick to the facts, people of Earth. Good morning, said Bilbo, and he meant it. The sun was shining and the grass was very green. But Gandalf looked at him from under long bushy eyebrows that stuck out further than the brim of his shady hat. What do you mean? He said. Do you wish me a good morning, or mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not, or that you feel good this morning, or that it is a morning to be good on? Lateral thinking, people of Earth, a sign of intelligence. All of them at once, said Bilbo, and a very fine morning for a pipe of tobacco out of doors into the bargain. If you have a pipe about you, sit down and have a fill of mine. There's no hurry. We have all the day before us. Then Bilbo sat down on a seat by his door, crossed his legs, and blew out a beautiful grey ring of smoke that sailed up into the air without breaking and floated away over the hill. Very pretty, said Gandalf, but I have no time to blow smoke rings this morning. I am looking for someone to share in an adventure that I am arranging, and it's very difficult to find anyone. I should think so. In these parts, we are plain quiet folk and have no use for adventures. Nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things. Make you late for dinner. I can't think what anybody sees in them, said our Mr. Baggins, and stuck one thumb behind his braces and blew out another, even bigger, smoke ring. Then he took out his morning letters and began to read, pretending to take no more notice of the old man. He had decided that he was not quite his sort and wanted him to go away. But the old man did not move. He stood leaning on his stick and gazing at the Hobbit without saying anything, till Bilbo got quite uncomfortable and even a little cross. "Good morning," he said at last. "We don't want any adventures here, thank you. You might try over the hill or across the water." By this he meant that the conversation excuse me, was at an end. My goodness, that was rather random, wasn't it? I'll have another glass of water. That's a cup of tea and 2 glasses of water. So then I'll have to pee, won't I? Oh, dear goddess, this living in 3D reality in a physical body that makes demands upon you is not very adventurous either. Quite frankly, it limits all my potentiates. But anyway. What news from the underworld, Mr. Crow? He says, "I enjoyed the chicken scraps you gave me, Mama T. It was quite delicious." Right. "What a lot of things you do use good morning for," said Gandalf. "And now you mean that you want to get rid of me, and that it won't be good till I move off." Not at all, my dear sir. Let me see. I don't think I know your name. Yes, my dear sir. And I do know your name, Mr. Bilbo Baggins. Pardon me. And you do know my name, though you don't remember that I belong to it. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me. To think that I should have lived to be good morninged by Belladonna Took's son, as if I was selling buttons at the door. Gandalf? Good gracious me! Not the wandering wizard that gave old Took a pair of magic diamond studs that fastened themselves and never came undone till ordered? Not the fellow who used to tell such wonderful tales at parties about dragons and goblins and giants, and the rescue of princesses, and the unexpected luck of widows' sons? Not the man that used to make such particularly excellent fireworks? I remember those. Old Took used to have them on Midsummer's Eve. Splendid! They used to go up like great lilies, and snapdragons and laburnums of fire, and hang in the twilight all evening. You will notice already that Mr. Baggins was not quite so prosy as he liked to believe. Also, that he was very fond of flowers. Dear me, he went on, not the Gandalf, who was responsible for so many quiet lads and lasses going off into the blue for mad adventures. Anything from climbing trees to visiting elves or sailing in ships, sailing to other shores. Bless me, life used to be quite you used to upset things badly in these parts once upon a time. I beg your pardon, but I have no idea you were still in business. Where else should I be? Said the wizard. All the same, I am pleased to find you remember something about me. You seem to remember my fireworks kindly at any rate, and that is not without hope. Indeed, for your old grandfather Took's sake, and for the sake of poor Belladonna, I would give you what you asked for. I beg your pardon, I haven't asked for anything. Yes, you have, twice now. My pardon, I give it to you. In fact, I will go so far as to send you on this adventure. Very amusing for me, very good for you, and profitable too, very likely, if you ever get over it. Sorry, I don't want any adventures, thank you. Not today. Good morning. But please come to tea any time you like. Why not tomorrow? Come tomorrow. Goodbye. With that, the Hobbit turned and scuttled inside his round green door and shut it as quickly as he dared, not to seem rude. Wizards, after all, are wizards. What on earth did I ask him to tea for? He said to himself as he went to the pantry. He had only just had breakfast, but he thought a cake or two and a drink of something would do him good after his fright. Gandalf, in the meantime, was still standing outside the door and laughing long but quietly. After a while, he stepped up and with the spike on his staff scratched a queer sign on the Hobbit's beautiful green front door. Then he strode away, just about the time when Bilbo was finishing his second cake and beginning to think that he had escaped adventures very well. The next day he had almost forgotten about Gandalf, but he did not remember things very well unless he put them down on his engagement tablet, like this: Gandalf, tea, Wednesday. Yesterday he had been too flustered to do anything of the kind. Just before tea time, there came a tremendous ring on the front door bell, and then he remembered. He rushed and put on the kettle and put out another cup and saucer and an extra cake or two and ran to the door. Makes me feel inspired to bake a cake today too. It's nice to have cake in case you get visitors, but I rarely get visitors and end up eating the entire cake myself. Therefore I end up even fatter. So no, maybe not. But who doesn't like a nice cake? Got big bags under my eyes, even though I've been sleeping quite well and having good sleep results. Yesterday I was so tired I had to take a little rest and lie down. So even with CPAP I'm still struggling with bloody chronic fatigue. It's annoying. Well, it's because I get up twice a night on average to pee. Twice a night is an improvement on what it was though. So I shan't complain. I'll take my bags under my eyes and I'll take joy and delight, and I'll read you stories. I am so sorry to keep you waiting, he was going to say, when he saw that it was not Gandalf at all. It was a dwarf with a blue beard tucked into a golden belt and very bright eyes under his dark green hood. As soon as the door was opened, he pushed inside, just as if he had been expected. He hung his hooded cloak on the nearest peg and, "Dwalin at your service," he said, with a low bow. "Bilbo Baggins at yours," said the Hobbit, too surprised to ask any questions for the moment. When the silence that followed had become uncomfortable, he added, "I am just about to make tea. Pray, come and have some with me." A little stiff, perhaps, but he meant it kindly. And what would you do if an uninvited dwarf came and hung his things up in your hall without a word of explanation? They had not been at table long. In fact, they had hardly reached the third cake when there came another, even louder ring at the bell. "Excuse me," said the Hobbit, and off he went to the door. "So you have got here at last." That was what he was going to say to Gandalf this time. But it was not Gandalf. Instead, there was a very old-looking dwarf on the step with a white beard and a scarlet hood, and he too hopped inside as soon as the door was open, just as if he had been invited. "I see they have begun to arrive early," he said, when he caught sight of Dwalin's green hood hanging up. He hung his red one next to it, and "Balin at your service," he said, with his hand on his breast. "Thank you," said Bilbo with a gasp. It was not the correct thing to say, but "they have begun to arrive" had flustered him badly. He liked visitors, but he liked to know them before they arrived, and he preferred to ask them himself. He had a horrible thought that the cakes might run short, and then he, as the host, he knew his duty and stuck to it, however painful he might have to go without. "Come along in and have some tea," he managed to say, after taking a deep breath. "A little beer would suit me better, if it is all the same to you, my good sir," said Balin with the white beard. "But I don't mind some cake. Seed cake, if you have any." "Lots?" Bilbo found himself answering to his own surprise as he found himself scuttling off to the cellar to fill a pint beer mug, and then to the pantry to fetch 2 beautiful round seed cakes, which he had baked that afternoon for his after-supper morsel. When he got back, Balin and Dwalin were talking at the table like old friends. As a matter of fact, they were brothers. Bilbo plumped down the beer and the cake in front of them when loud came a ring at the bell again, and then another ring. Grander for certain this time, he thought, as he puffed along the passage. But it was not. It was 2 more dwarves, both with blue hoods, silver belts, and yellow beards, and each of them carried a bag of tools and a spade. In they hopped as soon as the door began to open. Bilbo was hardly surprised at all. "What can I do for you, my dwarves?" Spelt with a V, as explained in the preface, he said. "Killy at your service," said the one, and Fili, added the other, and they both swept off their blue hoods and bowed. I can hear the fairy in the fairy corner quietly chuckling with delight. They like this story. They do. I can tell. It's going to be a magical, beautiful day. Ein Prosit, L'chaim, to those of you who love me. There will be cake. I'll have to go and buy some or bake some, but I think there shall be cake. Do you see how suggestible I am? You only have to mention food and off I go. I'm a true hobbit, especially when it comes to cake. Right. "At yours and your family's," replied Bilbo, remembering his manners this time. "Dwalin and Balin here already, I see," said Kili. "Let us join the throng." "Throng?" thought Mr. Baggins. "I don't like the sound of that. I really must sit down for a minute and collect my wits and have a drink." He had only just a sip in the corner, while the 4 dwarves sat round the table and talked about mines and gold and troubles with the goblins and the depredations of dragons and lots of other things which he did not understand, and did not want to, for they sounded much too adventurous, when ding-dong-a-ling-dang, his bell rang again, as if some naughty little hobbit boy was trying to pull the handle off. "Someone at the door," he said, blinking. "Some 4, I should say, by the sound," said Fili. "Besides, we saw them coming along behind us in the distance." The poor little hobbit sat down in the hall and put his head in his hands and wondered what had happened, and what was going to happen, and whether they would all stay to supper. Then the bell rang again, louder than ever, and he had to run to the door. It was not 4 after all. It was 5. Another dwarf had come along while he was wandering in the hall. He had hardly turned the knob before they were all inside, bowing and saying, "At your service," one after the other. Dorry, Norry, Orry, Owen and Glowen were their names. And very soon 2 purple hoods, a grey hood, a brown hood and a white hood were hanging on the pegs. And off they marched with their broad hands stuck in their gold and silver belts to join the others. Already it had almost become a throng. Some called for ale, and some for porter, and one for coffee, and all of them for cakes. So the Hobbit was kept very busy for a while. A big jug of coffee had just been set on the hearth. The seed cakes were gone, and the dwarves were starting on a round of buttered scones, when there came a loud knock, not a ring, but a hard on the Hobbit's beautiful green door. Somebody was banging with a stick. Bilbo rushed along the passage, very angry and altogether bewildered and bewothered. This was the most awkward Wednesday he ever remembered. He pulled open the door with a jerk, and they all fell in, one on top of the other. More dwarves, 4 more, and there was Gandalf behind, leaning on his staff and laughing. He had made quite a dent on the beautiful door. That would really make me cross, by the way. He had also, by the way, knocked out the secret mark that he had put there the morning before. "Carefully, carefully," he said. "It is not like you, Bilbo, to keep friends waiting on the mat and then open the door like a pop gun. Let me introduce Befor, Beaufort, Bombor, and especially Thorin." "At your service," said Befor, Beaufort, and Bombor, standing in a row. Then they hung up 2 yellow hoods and a pale green one, and also a sky blue one with a long silver tassel. Oh, that sounds pretty, doesn't it? This last belonged to Thorin, an enormously important dwarf, in fact, no other than the great Thorin Oakenshield himself, who was not at all pleased at falling flat on Bilbo's mat with Befor, Beaufort and Bombor on top of him. For one thing, Bombor was immensely fat and heavy. Thorin, indeed, was very haughty and said nothing about service. But poor Mr. Baggins said he was sorry so many times that at last he grunted, "Pray don't mention it," and stopped frowning. I'm laughing because it reminds me of the time when I met this very handsome, very sexy Italian womanizing piece of shit. But anyway, he was handsome and he was quite amusing actually. I did like him, to be fair. I liked him well enough, twice. But anyway, not on the same occasion either, I might add. But he was a shit of a man. But I did like him initially. But we were dancing at the Treasury Casino the first time I met him. I thought he was Croatian. And I don't know why I thought he was Croatian. He got very insulted because I kept telling him he was Croatian. I am Italian. I am from Roma. How dare you call me Croatian? As if it's an insult to be a Croatian. Didn't mean it as an insult. But he was very passionate, very mad, quite frankly, very, very extroverted and romantic and initially quite sweet, you understand. Lured me in like that too. Anyway, we were dancing, or I was dancing, and then he came to dance with me and joined in, which is okay because it's just a dance. And I can't dance, formal dancing. I should go and have dance classes one day, but I hate being regimented and I hate people stepping on my feet. It's a trauma response from being a teenager, being forced to dance at the Dutch club with all the seedy, filthy, nicotine, stinking, yellow-teethed, halitosis, old Dutchmen that fought to dance for me because I was young and pretty, you understand. And they'd either stomp on my feet or give me the ick factor. So I swore that I would never learn to dance formally. I never have. It's a shame though. I wouldn't mind learning the tango. The tango is a dance of war and passion and teasing. But anyway, so poor Marco doesn't know this about me because he's just met me, you understand. Very handsome man he was. He was handsome. Oh, turkey's back. And he dipped me. But, you know, he's tall and slim and I'm short and fat and hobbity. So he dipped me, but I wasn't prepared for the dippage. And so I slipped and I fell on the floor. And because I slipped and fell on the floor, he fell right on top of me. And then he proceeded, because he had a great sense of humour, to dry hump me. And he was kind of trying to hump me while pretending to get me up, you understand. Get me up as in raise me to my feet. Well, I shrieked out. And I was livid. And I start screaming, "Get off me now, you animal!" Anyway, everyone was laughing because I made quite a scene, but I was indeed annoyed having a man toss me to the floor like a hobbit and then writhe on me for all the casino to see. I was livid. Anyway, that was how our romance, if you could call it that, kind of began. He would come to the casino and, you know, flirt with me and I'd be like, "Get away from me. I don't want to be chucked on the floor today." I just thought it was all very funny, you know. Anyway, he was bonkers, completely bonkers. And in those days, I was in recovery from some other awful ugliness. I think I was, yes, I was in recovery from the end of the will dispute. So I was very, very broken. And anyway, wherever you are, Marco, you bastard. Get thee to Napoli. I used to do this to him. And then one day a Sicilian acquaintance I met on Pal Talk told me to call him Falcio di Minchia, which is Sicilian for fuckface. So I did, because I was disgusted because he kept shoving seagull on my face and being sadistic. I hate sadistic men that use other women to shove in your face. That's when I begin to hate you, you understand. There's no need for that cruel behaviour. So every time I saw him from that time on, Falcio, and he'd get really upset. It must be far worse being called that in Sicilian when you're an Italian from Roma. So my Sicilian friend knew exactly how to get him good. Anyway, it was hilarious. He'd be like, typical Italian, throw his arms in the air. What? And he'd be really genuinely distressed. And then he'd oil around me again. I'd be like, what do you want from me? What do you want from me, actually? Go dance with Seagull. I don't have time for your games. I really didn't. I had a couple of men after me in that time period who were actually being quite lovely. Made him look like a womanising piece of Falcio di Minchia. After all, Mama T stands by her truth. Anyway, where were we, people of Earth? Get with the story. Ah yes, the haughtiness reminded me. I was a bit haughty with him, but he deserved it. Wasn't nice how he treated me in the end. None of it was nice. None of it. That's why I live in Titania's realm, reading fairy stories. Queen Titania and King Oberon. I was going to ask them when are they going to bless me with my true love, but they're fairy and they don't really care about mortal romances. Trust me on that one. Right. Now we are all here, said Gandalf, looking at the row of 13 hoods. The best detachable party hoods, and his own hat hanging on the pegs. Quite a merry gathering. I hope there is something left for the latecomers to eat and drink. What's that? Tea? No, thank you. A little red wine, I think, for me. And for me, said Thorin. And raspberry jam and apple tart, said Byfor. And mince pies and cheese, said Beaufort. And pork pie and salad, said Bombor. And more cakes and ale and coffee, if you don't mind, called the other dwarves through the door. How did they know he had enough food in his pantries? Like, if that happened to me, I'd be really humiliated and embarrassed. I would not have had enough food to entertain them all. I would have been fit to be tied. I would have been crying in despair, not able to provide them with all their favourite things. Oh. Anyway, put on a few eggs. There's a good fellow, Gandalf called after him, as the Hobbit stumped off to the pantries. Pantries plural. Thank God he had multiple pantries stuffed full with good food. By the gods. Literally, by all the gods. Blessed be the Holy One in all manifestations of holiness and generosity and abundance and prosperity and basic care and honour and respect and providing us with all our needs. Blessed be. And just bring out the cold chicken and pickles. Seems to know as much about the inside of my larders as I do myself, thought Mr. Baggins, who was feeling positively flummoxed, was beginning to wonder whether a most wretched adventure had come right into his house. By the time he had got all the bottles and dishes and knives and forks, it's going to be a very long chapter. I might have to break it up into several. It might be a two video one, this one. Right, we'll forge ahead. We're 1 hour and 40 minutes in, so we have 3 hours. Sorry, I just have these little fits of panic every now and then. You understand. I didn't bother to check how long the chapter was before we started. I just dove right in. In life, sometimes one has to be taken by surprise and dive right in, and that too is an adventure. Sometimes with dire consequences, but sometimes it works out just fine and dandy. By the time he had got all the bottles and dishes and knives and forks and glasses and plates and spoons and things piled up on big trays, he was getting very hot and red in the face and annoyed. Confusticate and be bother these dwarfs, he said aloud. Why don't they come and lend a hand? What do you want, Scrubby Turkey? Don't you be looking at my toes. Hobbits as though they are. They're mine. My toes. Why don't they come and lend a hand? Lo and behold, there stood Balin and Dwalin at the door of the kitchen, and Feely and Keely behind them, and before he could say knife, they had whisked the trays and a couple of small tables into the parlour and set out everything afresh. Gandalf sat at the head of the party, with the 13 dwarves all round, and Bilbo sat on a stool at the fireside, nibbling at a biscuit. His appetite was quite taken away, and trying to look as if this was all perfectly ordinary, and not in the least an adventure. The dwarves ate and ate, and talked, and time got on. At last they pushed their chairs back, and Bilbo made a move to collect the plates and glasses. I suppose you will all stay to supper, he said, in his politest, unpressing tones. Of course, said Thorin, and after. We shan't get through the business till late, and we must have some music first. Now to clear up. Thereupon the 12 dwarfs, not Thorin, he was too important, and stayed talking to Gandalf, jumped to their feet and made tall piles of all the things. Off they went, not waiting for trays, balancing columns of plates, each with a bottle on top, with one hand, while the Hobbit ran after them, almost squeaking with fright. Please be careful, and please don't trouble. I can manage. But the dwarves only started to sing. Chip the glasses and crack the plates, blunt the knives and bend the forks. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates. Smash the bottles and burn the corks. Cut the cloth and tread on the fat. Pour milk on the pantry floor. Leave the bones on the bedroom mat. Splash the wine on every door. Dump the crocks in a boiling bowl. Pound them up with a thumping pole. And when you've finished, if any are whole, send them down the hole to roll. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates. So carefully, carefully with the plates. And of course, they did none of these dreadful things, and everything was cleaned and put away safe as quick as lightning, while the Hobbit was turning round and round in the middle of the kitchen, trying to see what they were doing. Then they went back and found Thorin with his feet on the fender, smoking a pipe. He was blowing the most enormous smoke rings, and wherever he told one to go, it went. Up the chimney, or behind the clock on the mantelpiece, or under the table, or round and round the ceiling. But wherever it went, it was not quick enough to escape Gandalf. Pop! He sent a small smoke ring from his short clay pipe straight through each one of Thorin's. Then Gandalf's smoke ring would go green and come back to hover over the wizard's head. He had a cloud of them about him already, and in the dim light it made him look strange and sorcerous. Bilbo stood still and watched. He loved smoke rings, and then he blushed to think how proud he had been yesterday morning of the smoke rings he had sent up the wind over the hill. "Now for some music," said Thorin. "Bring out the instruments." Keely and Feely rushed for their bags and brought back little fiddles. Dorry, Norry and Orry brought out flutes from somewhere inside their coats. Bombor produced a drum from the hall. Befor and Beaufort went out too and came back with clarinets that they had left among the walking sticks. Dwalin and Balin said, "Excuse me, I left mine," is after my toes, "in the porch. Look, you scurrilous, scavenging scourge of a bird. Stay away from my toes." "Just bring mine in with you," said Thorin. They came back with viols as big as themselves, and with Thorin's harp wrapped in green cloth. It was a beautiful golden harp, and when Thorin struck it, the music began all at once, so sudden and sweet that Bilbo forgot everything else and was swept away into dark lands under strange moons, far over the water and very far from his hobbit hole under the hill. Yes, music does have the power to transport one into all sorts of magical realms. The dark came into the room from the little window that opened in the side of the hill. The firelight flickered. It was April, and still they played on, while the shadow of Gandalf's beard wagged against the wall. The dark filled all the room, and the fire died down, and the shadows were lost, and still they played on, while the shadow of Gandalf's beard wagged against the wall. Oh, wait a minute. No, I thought I got lost, but I didn't. Or did I? It's hard to tell sometimes. Back in the room. The dark filled all the room, and the fire died down, and the shadows were lost, and still they played on. And suddenly, first one and then another began to sing as they played, deep-throated singing of the dwarves in the deep places of their ancient homes. And this is like a fragment of their song, if it can be like their song without their music. And here my beautiful friend Lynn Robertson, who is a very magical woman and the daughter of June Robertson, who is a true Norse woman because both her parents were Norwegian. And so they were the initial creators of runes, I believe, and oghams. The Irish developed oghams. But anyway, she's written notes. Masculine, end, rhyme, alliteration, internal rhyme, assonance, little notes. It's like having a piece of her with me, even though she's over there in New Zealand and I didn't go home to visit her. I didn't. I have regrets. I should have gone, but I've been too broken and reconfigured and didn't have quite enough money. I don't want to go there poor and dishevelled like a universal schmuck, broken and beaten down. I want to go there joyously and have plenty of money so we can actually celebrate life together and do nice things. And I don't want to be on other people's charity and I want to be in my own power and my own benevolence. So, because of my pride, I miss out. It is what it is, people of Earth. You singing songs, little Bo? To whom are you singing? I don't see the birdies around. Are you singing for joy or are you singing for the fairy folks? I wonder, because sometimes the tawny frogmouths are in the tree, but they're not today. You happy, little boys? You should be happy. All the money I spent on your new cages, which they did need, could have gone for a weekend trip home on a cheap airfare. But what good is a weekend? Spend all that money for one weekend. People who are ambivalent about you. So I invested in the birdie boys instead. I love you, Lynn. The love remains. But I'm quickly forgotten and discarded. And there's been a long history of that with other mortals. It is what it is. I want to cry when I think about it, but the tears won't resolve anything. What would Queen Titania do? Dance in the summer lands. That's what we shall be doing, people of Earth. We shall be dancing in the summer lands, joyously and triumphantly. And we'll keep our hearts open and we'll invite real loves into it. Real loves who respond to us in kind, with kindness and respect and honour and integrity. And I know who you are, my beloved ones. All platonic and quite wonderful. But imagine if I found a lover that treated me like my beautiful true friends treat me. That would be astonishing. So, it could happen one day. It could. As long as I stop inviting Faucho Dominguez into my life. Well, it is what it is. Well, my little birdie boys, you're faithful to Mama T, because they're asexual celibates like me and they're trapped in cages. Ouch. Oh, the irony. I just saw the water dragon run across. Everyone's here. Even the water dragon's here, little Bo. Yes. I wonder if Sybil Serpent's going to come and visit us again. She arrived exactly on Halloween last year. Springtime. She came to shed her skin. I'll have to keep an eye out for her. I'm almost certain she'll be back. She felt safe here and I'm proud of that. That beautiful snake felt safe here. The carpet python should feel safe here and be joyous. That's what sacred space is all about, isn't it, boys? Yes. Yes, Mama T. Right, this is their song. If it can be like their song without their music. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep, and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to seek the pale enchanted gold. The dwarves of yore made mighty spells, while hammers fell like ringing bells, in places deep where dark things sleep, in hollow halls beneath the fells. For ancient king and elvish lord, there many a gleaming golden hoard, they shaped and wrought, and light they caught, to hide in gems on hilt of sword. On silver necklaces they strung the flowering stars, on crowns they hung the dragon fire, and twisted wire they meshed the light of moon and sun. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to claim our long forgotten gold. Goblets they carved there for themselves, and harps of gold where no man delves. There lay they long and Many a song was sung unheard by men or elves. The pines were roaring on the height, the winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, it flaming spread. The trees like torches blazed with light. The bells were ringing in the dale, and men looked up with faces pale. The dragon's ire, more fierce than fire, laid low their towers and houses frail. The mountain smote beneath the moon. The dwarves, they heard the tramp of doom. They fled their hall to dying fall beneath his feet, beneath the moon. Far over the misty mountains grim, to dungeons deep and caverns dim, we must away ere break of day to win our harps and gold from him. As they sang, the Hobbit felt the love of beautiful things made by hands. I made this. And by cunning and by magic moving through him, a fierce and jealous love, the desire of the hearts of dwarves. Then something tookish woke up inside him, and he wished to go and see the great mountains and hear the pine trees and the waterfalls and explore the caves and wear a sword instead of a walking stick. He looked out of the window. The stars were out in the dark sky above the trees. He thought of the jewels of the dwarves shining in dark caverns. Suddenly, in the wood beyond the water, a flame leapt up, probably someone lighting a wood fire, and he thought of plundering dragons settling on his quiet hill and kindling it all to flames. He shuddered, and very quickly he was plain Mr. Baggins of Bag End, Underhill, again. He got up, trembling. He had less than half a mind to fetch the lamp, and more than half a mind to pretend to and go and hide behind the beer barrels in the cellar and not come out again until all the dwarves had gone away. Suddenly he found that the music and the singing had stopped, and they were all looking at him with eyes shining in the dark. "Where are you going?" said Thorin, in a tone that seemed to show that he guessed both halves of the Hobbit's mind. "What about a little light?" said Bilbo, apologetically. "We like dark," said all the dwarves. "Dark for dark business. There are many hours before dawn." Just want to show you my beautiful friend Lynn Robertson. Can you make it out? Very faintly she'd begun to sketch a tree. She's a wonderful drawer and wonderful artist. Oh, I used to so adore her and admire her and love her, and the love remains. The love remains, people of Earth. That was my childhood. Idealising and adoring the few people who were kind and decent to me. It is what it is, my darlings. It is what it is. Of course, said Bilbo, and sat down in a hurry. He missed the stool and sat in the fender, knocking over the poker and shovel with a crash. Hush, said Gandalf. Let Thorin speak. And this is how Thorin began. Gandalf, dwarves, and Mr. Baggins, we are met together in the house of our friend and fellow conspirator, this most excellent and audacious Hobbit. May the hair on his toes never fall out. All praise to his wine and ale. He paused for breath and for a polite remark from the Hobbit, but the compliments were quite lost on poor Bilbo Baggins, who was wagging his mouth in protest at being called audacious, and worst of all, fellow conspirator, though no noise came out. He was so flummoxed. So Thorin went on. We are met to discuss our plans, our ways, means, policy and devices. We shall soon, before the break of day, start on our long journey, a journey from which some of us, or perhaps all of us, except our friend and counsellor, the ingenious wizard Gandalf, may never return. It is a solemn moment. Our object is, I take it, well known to us. To the estimable Mr. Baggins, and perhaps to one or two of the younger dwarves, I think I should be right in naming Killy and Philly, for instance. The exact situation at the moment may require a little brief explanation. This was Thorin's style. He was an important dwarf. If he had been allowed, he would probably have gone on like this until he was out of breath, without telling anyone there anything that was not known already. But he was rudely interrupted. Poor Bilbo couldn't bear it any longer. At may never return, he began to feel a shriek coming up inside, and very soon it burst out like a whistle of an engine coming out of a tunnel. All the dwarves sprang up, knocking over the table. Gandalf struck a blue light on the end of his magic staff, and in its firework glare the poor little hobbit could be seen kneeling on the hearthrug, shaking like jelly that was melting, or like Dave Charles and his cousin Chris whenever they saw me mushing wildly to the rock bands at the Livewire bar. Weak, insipid bathos on their parts. You understand? Thanks for the 2 fucks I no longer give. Babies. Yes, well anyway, we must keep it PG. No, we don't have to. This is my channel and I can do whatever I want, whatever, as long as I'm not being too savage, you understand. Well anyway, Mama T's ready for an adventure. Might even involve one that includes taking a marvellous lover and reaching catharsis in a physical, primal way. Ha! Half my YouTube audience just fell off their perch, and the other half just got a little bit stimulated, you understand. Don't go there. Don't go there, guy friends. I need a real man, of real heart and real soul, and integrity and honour, not just the physical incorporations of the mortal kind, you understand. Anyway, where were we? We segued at shaking like jelly that was melting. Then oh, you have to laugh. Then he fell flat on the floor and kept on calling out, struck by lightning, over and over again, and that was all they could get out of him for a long time. So they took him and laid him out of the way on the drawing room sofa with a drink at his elbow, and they went back to their dark business. I'm wondering if we need to break it up. About 10 pages left, by the gods. Mama T and her little projects and missions can be a little bit intense. Anyway, I'm really enjoying this. At least it's not all dark and violent and squalid and sordid, and it's a different kind of brotherhood, and it's an adventure. There will be darkness and violence later on in the story, because that's the nature of, the life-death life. Cycling and upcycling and downcycling, and the hero's journey, overcoming everything and everyone. But for now, I'm enjoying it. Excitable little fellow, said Gandalf, as they sat down again. Gets funny, queer fits, but he is one of the best, as fierce as a dragon in a pinch. If you have ever seen a dragon in a pinch, you will realise that this was only poetical exaggeration applied to any hobbit, even to old Took's great-grand-uncle Bull Roarer, who was so huge for a hobbit that he could ride a horse. He charged the ranks of the goblins of Mount Graham in the Battle of the Green Fields and knocked their king Golfinbull's head clean off with a wooden club. It sailed 100 yards through the air and went down a rabbit hole, and in this way the battle was won, and a game of golf invented at the same moment. I guess you had to be there. Besides, the game of golf was invented in Scotland, which says a lot about the Scots, don't you think? In the meanwhile, however, Bull Roarer's gentler descendant was reviving in the drawing room. After a while and a drink, he crept nervously to the door of the parlour. This is what he heard, glowing, speaking, humph, or some snort more or less like that. Will he do you think? It's all very well for Gandalf to talk about this hobbit being fierce, but one shriek like that in a moment of excitement would be enough to wake the dragon and all his relatives, and kill the lot of us. I think it sounded more like fright than excitement. In fact, if it had not been for the sign on the door, I should have been sure we had come to the wrong house. Excuse me. I haven't really eaten much for breakfast, and yet I'm bilious. It's probably from all the water. Dear goddess. Magical Mama T has strange little fragile ways of existing in the world. You understand? Getting more fragile as I age. What are we going to do about that, birdie boys? We're going to love each other and we're going to sing songs. Okay, you sing, I'll dance. Right. As soon as I clapped eyes on the little fellow bobbing and puffing on the mat, I had my doubts. He looks more like a grocer than a burglar. Then Mr. Baggins turned the handle and went in. The took side had won. He suddenly felt he would go without bed and breakfast to be thought fierce. As for little fellow bobbing on the mat, it almost made him really fierce. Many a time afterwards, the Baggins part regretted what he did now, and he said to himself, Bilbo, you were a fool. You walked right in and put your foot in it. Pardon me, he said, if I have overheard words that you were saying. I don't pretend to understand what you are talking about, or your reference to burglars, but I think I am right in believing, this is what he called being on his dignity, that you think I am no good. I will show you. I have no signs on my door. It was painted a week ago, and I'm quite sure you have come to the wrong house. As soon as I saw your funny faces on the doorstep, I had my doubts, but treat it as the right one. Tell me what you want done, and I will try. If I have to walk from here to the east of east and fight the wild werewolves in the last desert. I had a great granduncle once, Bull Roarer took, and yes, but that was long ago, said Glowin. I was talking about you, and I assure you there is a mark on this door, the usual one in the trade, or used to be. Burglar wants a good job, plenty of excitement, and reasonable reward. That's how it is usually read. You can say expert treasure hunter instead of burglar if you like. Some of them do. It's all the same to us. Gandalf told us that there was a man of the sort in these parts looking for a job at once, and that he had arranged for a meeting here this Wednesday, tea time. Of course there is a mark, said Gandalf. I put it there myself, for very good reasons. You asked me to find the 14th man for your expedition, and I chose Mr. Baggins. Just let anyone say I chose the wrong man or the wrong house, and you can stop at 13 and have all the bad luck you like, or go back to digging coal. He scowled so angrily at Glowin that the dwarf huddled back in his chair, and when Bilbo tried to open his mouth to ask a question, he turned and frowned at him and stuck out his bushy eyebrows. Mine are carefully curated by my beautiful Kylie, you understand, till Bilbo shut his mouth tight with a snap. "That's right," said Gandalf. "Let's have no more argument. I have chosen Mr. Baggins, and that ought to be enough for all of you. If I say he is a burglar he is, or will be, when the time comes. There is a lot more in him than you guess, and a great deal more than he has any idea of himself, as I discovered when I got immersed in the silversmithing journey. I discovered how stoic and intrepid and determined and resilient I truly am. And I didn't know that before about myself, and it was a wonderful boost to my self-esteem until someone named Scott, that lackluster cur, tried to crush it right out from under me because of jealousy and envy and spite. But anyway, once you have a certain quality of self-esteem, people of Earth, no man, woman or child or even god or goddess or fae can remove it from you, because you know who you are now and what you're worth and what you can achieve if you have enough resources and the willpower and the stickability to stick at it. And yes, this piece has flaws because it was one of my early pieces, and yet I'm still proud of it. So there is that. Get your own hobbies and achieve your own goals, and stop being feckless and vicious and petty and envious of a woman such as I. Mama T has spoken. Right. There is a lot more in him than you can guess, and a deal more than he has any idea of himself. You may, possibly, all live to thank me yet. Now, Bilbo, my boy, fetch the lamp and let's have a little light on this. On the table, in the light of a big lamp with a red shade, he spread a piece of parchment, rather like a map. This was made by Thror, your grandfather, Thorin, he said, in answer to the dwarves' excited questions. It is a plan of the mountain. I don't see that this will help us much, said Thorin, disappointedly, after a glance. I remember the mountain well enough and the lands about it, and I know where Mirkwood is and the withered heath where the great dragons bred. There is a dragon marked in red on the mountain, said Balin, but it will be easy enough to find him without that, if ever we arrive there. There is one point that you haven't noticed, said the wizard, and that is the secret entrance. You see that rune on the west side and the hand pointing to it from the other runes? That marks a hidden passage to the lower halls. Look at the map at the beginning of this book, and you will see there are the runes. Ha ha. hope you're enjoying this, people of Earth, as much as I am. It may have been secret once, said Thorin, but how do we know that it is secret any longer? Old Smorg has lived there long enough now to find out anything there is to know about those caves. He may, but he can't have used it for years and years. Why? Because it is too small. 5 feet high the door, and 3 may walk abreast, say the runes. But Smorg could not creep into a hole that size, not even when he was a young dragon, certainly not after devouring so many of the dwarves and men of Dale. It seems a great big hole to me, squeaked Bilbo, who had no experience of dragons and only of hobbit holes. He was getting excited and interested again, so that he forgot to keep his mouth shut. He loved maps, and in his hall there hung a large one of the country round, with all his favourite walks marked on it in red ink. How could such a large door be secret from everybody outside, apart from the dragon? He asked. He was only a little hobbit, you must remember. In lots of ways, said Gandalf. But in what way this one has been hidden, we don't know without going to see. From what it says on the map, I should guess there is a closed door which has been made to look exactly like the side of the mountain. That is the usual dwarves' method. I think that is right, isn't it? Quite right, said Thorin. Also, went on Gandalf, as a bit of a segue, it's kind of interesting, because they say that it's in the sides of mountains where UAPs sometimes have been known to exit and enter from, looking just like an ordinary mountainside as opposed to a giant bloody hangar big enough to house a very large ship. Interesting. Anyway, quite right, said Thorin. Also, went on Gandalf, I forgot to mention that with the map went a key, a small and curious key. Here it is, he said, and handed to Thorin a key with a long barrel and intricate words made of silver. Keep it safe. Sorry, I'm feeling this powerful love just flowing to me right now. I'm looking over at the fairy corner, but I don't think it's fairy, it's a human spirit, I think, I'm not sure. Powerful, powerful intensity, quite lovely. Wonder who that might be. One can never know sometimes. Just have to let it flow through you and accept with grace. Indeed I will, said Thorin, and he fastened it upon a fine chain that hung about his neck and under his jacket. Now things begin to look more hopeful. This news alters them much for the better. So far we have no clear idea what to do. We thought of going east, as quiet and careful as we could, as far as the long lake. After that, the trouble would begin. A long time before that, if I know anything about the roads east, interrupted Gandalf. We might go from there up along the river running, went on Thorin, taking no notice, and so to the ruins of Dale, the old town in the valley there, under the shadow of the mountain. But we none of us liked the idea of the front gate. The river runs right out of it through the great cliff at the south of the mountain, and out of it comes the dragon too. Far too often, unless he has changed his habits. That would be good, said the wizard. Not without a mighty warrior, even a hero. I tried to find one, but warriors are busy fighting one another in distant lands, and in this neighbourhood, heroes are scarce, or simply not to be found. It's pretty much true of Brisbane, Australia as well. Putrid it is. Wow, Mama T's been taken by surprise before, and no doubt will again. Swords in these parts are mostly blunt, and axes are used for trees, and shields as cradles or dish covers, and dragons are comfortably far off, and therefore legendary. This is why I settled on burglary, especially when I remembered the existence of a side door. And here is our little Bilbo Baggins, the burglar, the chosen and selected burglar. So now let's get on and make some plans. Very well then, said Thorin. Supposing the burglar expert gives us some ideas or suggestions. He turned with mock politeness to Bilbo. First, I should like to know a bit more about things, said he, feeling all confused and a bit shaky inside, but so far still tookishly determined to go on with things. I mean about the gold and the dragon and all that, and how it got there and who it belongs to, and so on and further. Bless me, said Thorin. Haven't you got a map, and didn't you hear our song, and haven't we been talking about all this for hours? All the same, I should like it all plain and clear, said he obstinately, putting on his business manner, usually reserved for people who tried to borrow money off him, and doing his best to appear wise and prudent and professional and live up to Gandalf's recommendation. Also, I should like to know about risks, out-of-pocket expenses, time required, and remuneration, and so forth, by which he meant, what am I going to get out of it, and am I going to come back alive? Oh, very well, said Thorin. Long ago, in my grandfather Thror's time, our family was driven out of the far north and came back with all their wealth and their tools to this mountain on the map. It had been discovered by my far ancestor, Thrain the Old, but now they mined and they tunnelled and they made huger halls and greater workshops, and in addition I believe they found a good deal of gold and a great many jewels too. Anyway, they grew immensely rich and famous, and my grandfather, oh, it's a cockatoo flying by, and my grandfather was king under the mountain again, and treated with great reverence by the mortal men who lived in the south and were gradually spreading up the running river as far as the valley overshadowed by the mountain. They built the merry town of Dale there in those days. Kings used to send for our smiths and reward even the least skillful most richly. Fathers would beg us to take their sons as apprentices and pay us handsomely, especially in food supplies, which we never bothered to grow or find for ourselves. Altogether, those were good days for us, and the poorest of us had money to spend and to lend, and leisure to make beautiful things. Just for the fun of it, I made the chain too. Just for the fun of it, I made these earrings also. I found out I wasn't quite the useless eater the globalists wished me to be. So, fuck you, globalists. Anyway, where were we? Not to speak of the most marvellous and magical toys, the like of which is not to be found in the world nowadays. So my grandfather's halls became full of armour and jewels and carvings and cups, and the toy market of Dale was the wonder of the north. I love toys. I was forever buying toys for my children when they were small, to the point of obsession, people of Earth. Now I buy toys for my birdie boys, but my Kermie still doesn't like that new swing I got him. He's rebellious. He's a funny birdie. You gonna go in the swing? The $50 swing? That's a lot of money for a swing for a birdie that doesn't swing on it. But yesterday I put some watermelon and teased him, and he had to go in the swing to get the watermelon. Oh, yes, you did. You went there, because I found the watermelon tossed on the floor, which means he'd had to have gone into the swing to get to it. Swing time. Swinger, 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 swinger. Oh, well. Undoubtedly, that was what brought the dragon. Dragons steal gold and jewels, you know, from men and elves and dwarfs, wherever they can find them, and they guard their plunder as long as they live, which is practically forever unless they are killed, and never enjoy a brass ring of it. Indeed, they hardly know a good bit of work from a bad, though they usually have a good notion of the current market value, and they don't make a thing for themselves, not even mend a little loose scale of their armour. There were lots of dragons in the north in those days, and gold was probably getting scarce up there, with the dwarves flying south or getting killed, and all the general waste and destruction that dragons make, going from bad to worse. There was a most specially greedy, strong and wicked worm called Smog. One day he flew up into the air and came south. The first we heard of it was a noise like a hurricane coming from the north, and the pine trees on the mountain creaking and cracking in the wind. Some of the dwarves who happened to be outside, I was one, luckily, a fine adventurous lad in those days, always wandering about, and it saved my life that day. Well, from a good way off, we saw the dragon settle on our mountain in a spout of flame. Then he came down the slopes, and when he reached the woods, they all went up in fire. By that time, all the bells were ringing in the dale, and the warriors were arming. The dwarves rushed out of their great gate. Sorry, people of Earth. But there, dear goddess, but there was the dragon waiting for them. None escaped that way. The river rushed up in steam, and a fog fell on Dale, and in the fog the dragon came on them and destroyed most of the warriors. The usual unhappy story, it was only too common in those days. Then he went back and crept in through the front gate and routed out all the halls and lanes and tunnels, alleys, cellars, mansions, and passages. After that there were no dwarves left alive inside, and he took all their wealth for himself. Probably, for that is the dragon's way, he has piled it all up in a great heap far inside, and sleeps on it for a bed. Later he used to crawl out of the great gate and come by night to Dale and carry away people, especially maidens, to eat, until Dale was ruined and all the people dead or gone. What goes on there now I don't know for certain, but I don't suppose anyone lives nearer to the mountain than the far edge of the long lake nowadays. The few of us that were well outside sat and wept in hiding and cursed Smog, and there we were unexpectedly joined by my father and my grandfather with singed beards. They looked very grim, but they said very little. When I asked how they had got away, they told me to hold my tongue and said that one day, in the proper time, I should know. After that, we went away, and we have had to earn our livings as best we could, up and down the lands, often enough sinking as low as blacksmith work or even coal mining. But, what are you doing, bird? He keeps taking the cork out of that little pottery bottle, and I don't know what that's about. Ah! No! Do I have to cordon off the whole thing? You're a pest. You're a wormed pest. Yes. Let's jump down now. sorry, but we have never forgotten our stolen treasure. And even now, when I will allow, we have a good bit laid by and are not so badly off. Here Thorin stroked the gold chain around his neck. We still mean to get it back and to bring our curses home to Smorg, if we can. I have often wondered about my father's and my grandfather's escape, and I see now they must have had a private side door, which only they knew about. But apparently they made a map, and I should like to know how Gandalf got hold of it, and why it did not come down to me, the rightful heir. I did not get hold of it. I was given it, said the wizard. Your grandfather Thrall was killed, you remember, in the mines of Moriah by Azog the goblin. Curse his name, yes, said Thorin. And Thrain, your father, went away on the 21st of April, 100 years ago last Thursday, and has never been seen by you since. True, true, said Thorin. Well, your father gave me this to give to you, and if I have chosen my own time and way for handing it over, you can hardly blame me, considering the trouble I had to find you. Your father could not remember his own name when he gave me the paper, and he never told me yours, so on the whole, I think I ought to be praised and thanked. Here it is, said he, handing the map to Thorin. I don't understand, said Thorin, and Bilbo felt he would have liked to say the same. The explanation did not seem to explain. Your grandfather, said the wizard slowly and grimly, gave the map to his son for safety before he went to the mines of Moriah. Or is it Moria? Moria, Moriah. Moriah, Moria. Potato, potato. Tomato, tomato. I think it's Moria. So we're going to amend that. I remember it now. I've put a Jewish slant on it because Moriah, I think, is a mountain somewhere in Israel. So it seeps out my Jewishness from time to time, people of earth. Dear Goddess. Well, nothing to be ashamed of. I'm proud to call myself a Jew, even though I don't really practice it anymore, you understand. Lost in Titania's realm with the fairy folks and the storytelling and the Gentiles, some of which I had a habit of falling in love with and out of love with, because I thought I'd give them a chance since the Israelis were so demonic and life-threatening. Just what it is, people of earth. Right. Maybe my future husband is fairy or extra-dimensional. That would be weird, people of earth. I'm a woman of the earth, of passions and physicality. But you never know, do you? You never really know. It's odd. Anyway, let's stay grounded on planet Earth. Your father went away to try his luck with the map after your grandfather was killed, and lots of adventures of a most unpleasant sort he had, but he never got near the mountain. How he got there, I don't know, but I found him a prisoner in the dungeons of the necromancer. Whatever were you doing there? Asked Thorin with a shudder, and all the dwarves shivered. Never you mind. I was finding things out as usual, and a nasty dangerous business it was. Even I, Gandalf, only just escaped. I tried to save your father, but it was too late. He was witless and wandering, and had forgotten almost everything except the map and the key. We have long ago paid the goblins of Moria, said Thorin. We must give a thought to the necromancer. Don't be absurd. He's an enemy far beyond the powers of all the dwarves put together, if they could all be collected again from the four corners of the world. The one thing your father wished was for his son to read the map, and use the key. Did I drink all the water? I did. By the gods. Thirsty today. Very thirsty. The dragon and the mountain are more than big enough tasks for you. Hear, hear, said Bilbo, and accidentally said it aloud. Hear what? They all said, turning suddenly towards him, and he was so flustered that he answered, Hear what I have got to say. What's that? They asked. Well, I should say that you ought to go east and have a look around. After all, there is the side door, and dragons must sleep sometimes, I suppose. If you sit on the doorstep long enough, I dare say you will think of something. And well, don't you know, I think we have talked long enough for one night, if you see what I mean. What about bed and an early start and all that? I will give you a good breakfast before you go. Before we go, I suppose you mean, said Thorin. Aren't you the burglar? And isn't sitting on the doorstep your job, not to speak of getting inside the door? But I agree about bed and breakfast. I like 6 eggs with my ham when starting on a journey, fried, not poached. And mind you don't break 'em. After all the others had ordered their breakfasts without so much as a please, which annoyed Bilbo very much, they all got up. The Hobbit had to find room for them all, and filled all his spare rooms and made beds on chairs and sofas before he got them all stowed and went to his own little bed, very tired and not altogether happy. One thing he did make his mind up about was not to bother to get up very early and cook everyone else's wretched breakfast. The tookishness was wearing off, and he was not now quite so sure that he was going on any journey in the morning. As he lay in bed, he could hear Thorin still humming to himself in the best bedroom next to him. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find our long forgotten gold. Bilbo went to sleep with that in his ears, and it gave him very uncomfortable dreams. 'Twas long after the break of day when he woke up. Right, my darlings, my beautiful people of earth, and hobbitses, dwarves, wizards, dragons, goblins, hobgoblins, orcs of Middle Earth, I bid you good is it afternoon yet? I don't know. Probably still morning. Don't know. I got lost in the space-time continuum in the beautiful rendering of The Hobbit, published by Unwin Books. Anyway, I bid you a day and a night of sheer delight, minus the spite and the slight. True loves shall we co-create tonight. Bye for all.